Edgar Allan Poe's narrative poem, The Raven, tells the story of a grief-stricken student visited by a raven on a bleak December night who ultimately descends into despair as the bird's single word, Nevermore, becomes an answer to his desperate questions about his lost love, Lenore. The raven perches on a bust of Pallas, and with each utterance of Nevermore, it crushes the narrator's hope of reuniting with Lenore in the afterlife, symbolizing the finality of death and the persistence of grief. *** narrative summary ***. The poem begins on a dreary midnight as an unnamed student reads, trying to distract himself from his sorrow over the death of his beloved Lenore. He is poring over old books, searching for some way to forget his pain. Suddenly, he hears a soft tapping at his chamber door. At first, he assumes it is just a late-night visitor and tries to ignore it, his heart heavy with thoughts of Lenore. But the tapping persists, growing slightly louder. He opens the door to find only darkness. Confused, he whispers Lenore's name into the void, half hoping she has returned, but only an echo answers him. He then realizes the sound is coming from his window. Opening the shutter, a majestic raven flies in and perches on a bust of the goddess Pallas, the Greek goddess of wisdom, which sits above his chamber door. The student, initially amused by the bird's serious and stern appearance, begins to speak to it. The narrator, struck by the strangeness of the situation, decides to question the raven. He asks for its name, and to his astonishment, the bird replies with a single croaking word, Nevermore. Intrigued and unsettled, the narrator continues his one-sided conversation. He pulls up a chair and sits before the bird, pondering what this ominous word could mean. His thoughts drift back to Lenore, and he wonders if he will ever find an end to his suffering. He asks the raven if there is balm in Gilead, a biblical reference to healing, essentially asking if his emotional wounds will ever mend. The raven once again answers, Nevermore. This reply fills him with a growing sense of dread. Driven by a desperate need for answers, he asks the ultimate question. Will he be reunited with Lenore in the afterlife, in the distant paradise he calls Aden? The raven's solemn response is the same chilling word, Nevermore. This final answer shatters the narrator's last glimmer of hope, pushing him toward the edge of sanity. ***, the poem's climax ***. Driven to madness by the bird's relentless reply, the narrator's sorrow turns to fury. He screams at the raven, calling it a thing of evil and a prophet of despair. He can no longer bear its presence, which now feels like a tormenting spirit sent to mock his grief. The student demands that the raven leave his home and take its beak from out his heart, to cast its shadow from his floor. He begs it to return to the night's Plutonian shore, a reference to the underworld, and leave him alone in his loneliness. But the raven does not move. It remains motionless on the bust of Pallas, its eyes gleaming with a demonic light, casting a dark shadow on the floor below. The poem concludes with the narrator's soul trapped beneath that shadow, a powerful metaphor for his eternal state of despair. He realizes his hope of reuniting with Lenore has been extinguished forever, and he is condemned to a life of unending mourning. ***, key themes and symbolism ***. Grief and loss. ***. The poem is a powerful exploration of unending grief and the inability to cope with the loss of a loved one. The narrator is trapped in a cycle of remembrance and sorrow, unable to move past the death of Lenore. His attempts to distract himself by reading are futile, as every thought leads back to his loss. The raven's arrival only intensifies this grief, personifying the deep, inconsolable pain that has taken root in his soul. The poem suggests that for some, grief is not a phase to be overcome, but a permanent state of being, a shadow from which there is no escape. The narrator's final state of despair illustrates the devastating impact of loss when it is not processed or healed, becoming an all-consuming force that destroys the spirit. Despair, ***, the raven S repeated, Nevermore, serves as a confirmation of the narrator's deepest fears and cements his despair. Initially, the word seems random, but as the narrator projects his own anxieties onto the bird, Nevermore becomes a definitive answer to his most desperate questions. It signifies the end of hope, the finality of death, and the impossibility of solace. The poem meticulously charts the narrator's journey from melancholy to outright despair, with each utterance of the word pushing him further into a state of hopelessness. The Raven shatters any hope for a future without sorrow or a reunion with Lenore in the afterlife, leaving the narrator in a psychological prison from which he can never break free. Madness. ***. The narrator's descent into madness is a central element of the poem, fueled by the Raven's presence and its ominous responses. His psychological journey begins in a state of deep sorrow and fatigue, but the interaction with the mysterious bird pushes him over the edge. He starts by being amused and curious, but quickly becomes agitated, desperate, and finally enraged. He projects his own inner turmoil onto the Raven, seeing it as a demonic prophet sent to torment him. By the end, he is no longer a rational scholar, but a man consumed by his own frenzied imagination, forever locked in a conversation with a symbol of his own despair. The poem masterfully depicts how grief, when left unchecked, can erode reason and lead to a complete mental breakdown. The Raven. The raven is a complex and powerful symbol in the poem. Traditionally, ravens are associated with ill omens, death, and dark magic, and Poe uses this symbolism to full effect. The bird is not just a creature. It is a messenger, a prophet, and a physical manifestation of sorrow and the persistent memory of a lost love. Its black feathers and solemn demeanor represent the darkness of grief and the finality of death. It becomes the embodiment of the narrator's own dark thoughts, speaking the single word that confirms his worst fears. The Raven represents the inescapable nature of his grief, a constant, unmoving reminder of what he has lost. Bust of Pallas. The raven perching on a bust of the Greek goddess of wisdom, Pallas Athena, is a crucial symbol. Pallas represents reason, intellect, and logic. By landing on her head, the raven symbolically asserts its dominance over the narrator's rationality. This act signifies the triumph of irrationality, superstition, and overwhelming grief over the narrator's intellect. The scholar, a man of learning and reason, is ultimately defeated by the raw primal force of his emotions. His logical mind cannot make sense of his loss or find comfort, and so it is crushed by the dark, unknowable power represented by the raven. The image captures the central conflict of the poem, the battle between the mind and the heart, a battle which the heart, in its sorrow, ultimately wins. Literary significance. The Raven is considered a masterpiece of American Gothic literature, celebrated for its musicality, atmospheric supernatural tone, and deep exploration of the human psyche. Its masterful use of rhythm, rhyme, and imagery creates a haunting and mesmerizing tale of love, loss, and madness. Poe's meticulous use of literary devices like alliteration, assonance, and internal rhyme gives the poem a song-like quality that draws the reader into the narrator's hypnotic descent into despair. The poem's enduring popularity lies in its universal themes and its ability to capture the profound darkness of the human experience. It remains a cornerstone of dark romanticism, showcasing Poe's genius in crafting a narrative that is both terrifying and deeply moving. A timeless examination of how grief can transform a person's reality into a living nightmare,